And we're back. Okay, Sketch96. I'm thinking we'll go through and check out some of these old racks. We've got some big ol', we can get that folder to show up. I think it's still indexing this. You can see this thing spinning, and so, you know, I saved this thing like several minutes ago, and it takes several minutes to index fully the project folder. So Ableton is not used to project folders this size, but I've got this future sketches folder, and we've got a bunch of multi-racks. These are some of the ones we've used before. Sometimes if I click off of this and back on, yeah, it takes a while. But so yeah, maybe we'll pull one of these old ones in and just have a listen and hear what we hear. All right. And I think another way we can actually access, looks like we need to turn up some of our other sound generators to get something out of this. And I think the crackle amount has a lot to do with some of these resonators. It's hard to say without diving deep inside. I don't really want to go into the guts of this thing in terms of exactly how it's working under there. Dark and scary place. All right, I'm not seeing the future sketches folder, but we can open document. We can choose all files here. I don't know how this works exactly on the Mac. And then we can just dive into any one of these. We can just drag them in. So that's kind of a workaround, a cheat. Let's check out, yeah, why not? I mean, heck, let's just bring them all in onto their own tracks. Hopefully we don't hose our CPU. If I did these right, they're all turned off by default, so they shouldn't suck any CPU. That one was obviously not saved properly. Okay, let's cancel there and go ahead and turn that one off. Yeah, I tried to establish when I was heavy into making these monster racks some kind of consistency, some kind of convention as far as them all. When I saved the presets here, making sure everything was turned off so that when you brought it in, you wouldn't hear so many like initial jarring pops. But anyway, didn't always adhere to the conventions. So let's check this one out. Some kind of fun, abstract, experimental textures. You could see we're really pushing the cores on this computer. Ooh, that crust is super gritty, super dirty. That classic Ableton kind of lo-fi sort of overall sheen, lo-fi sheen. I'm kind of tempted to do a quick experiment, render this one out both at 48 and then at 192. So I'm going to actually just pause the video and do that, and we'll bring in two clips and just compare. I just kind of want to hear what these will sound like at various rates. Be right back. Okay, we're back, and I've got two renders here. I rendered this channel here, this rack. Monster rack at both 48 and then 192, the exact same length, and you can definitely see there's a bit of a difference there, and it's certainly like, well, let's have a listen, I guess. We'll start from right in here. So there's the 48 one. Ableton at its kind of natural, I guess, sampling rate, more normal, and then a bit smoother, as you can hear. I mean, there's definitely some notes, some tones, almost like a feedback that kind of came out a little bit. But you can hear in the noise section, things are just so much smoother. It sounds way more refined. So I do highly recommend, if you like to use a lot of the Ableton effects, give it a shot where you render at 192, even just for a section, and just have a listen. It's interesting to note that different effects have different nuances. Certainly I think grain delays are definitely a lot better sounding. Some of the distortions almost sound just different. It's something I want to do a lot more testing and studying of at some point, just to get a feel for exactly like what effects do what at different rates. But for now, I just know that things typically tend to sound a lot smoother, a lot better, a lot, I guess, finer, more HD when rendered out at super high resolution. I'll usually render it out at 192 and then go into something like Wavesaur or some audio editing and program, and then resample it, or you can resample it back down to 848 in Ableton. Of course, if you want to pitch that sample way down low, I believe at 192 you can go down 2 to 3 octaves before you start to notice any kind of like digital breakdown there, because obviously with 192 you got way more data going per second, so that means you can stretch that out a lot more before it starts to get the aliasing creeps in. So anyway, back to enough BS scientific nonsense. As much as I love to nerd out on all that crap, we'll stick with 48 now. I hope at some point before I die, laptops can be so powerful we can all run at 192 just natively, naturally, and not skip a beat. But for now, 48 is actually really, for me and for what I've read, the best resolution that I've found. Things just tend to sound a little more crisp to my ears. Okay, so let's check this one out. Cool. I like how tonal this one is, how sparse it is also. Let's see, maybe another one of these will work. Yeah, I like these two together. We've got Improv Creation 3A and Improv Creation 3B. They actually might have been made in the same improv session that I did years and years and years ago. So let's go ahead and we'll just use those as the starting point. And I like to switch these over into MIDI tracks for easier automation modulation purposes, because you can't double click on an audio track, but you can double click and get a free clip there on a MIDI track. So, just a fun little way to do things. Okay, so let's get some, let's see, Monster Rack 1. Let's get some automation going here in a second. Rack 2. Shoot, we're practically done, honestly. Just kidding. Don't want to give up that easily. Got to certainly run this stuff through some effects. All right, let's play with some automations here. Whoops. Let's give it a little more runway. So this will be changing the tone of one of the resonators, and we'll just have it switch off every so often. Let me actually stretch this out a bit more. sometimes you just got to make bold moves. You just got to kind of jump on doing things and hopefully do it as non-destructive as possible, so that way you can always go back and change from, you know, whatever bad decisions, with that quick last-minute decisions you made earlier. But sometimes it's fun to just do some speed run type stuff where you just make quick, you know, commitments and you kind of throw caution to the wind. And to me, that really helps teach one the art of just sort of committing and printing down with your ideas, like making bold moves. It's not always easy, you know. Oftentimes I think people get really stuck on certain things. Sometimes it's good to just, you know, weigh the options, but give yourself a bit of a time deadline and don't like try to, you know, spend too long on something or nothing gets done in the end. All right, let's definitely automate this. And that's kind of what I've been doing a lot in these sketches. A lot of it is, you know, I've got certain ideas, certain things I've exercised before, and I can pull from that little bag of tricks. But for the most part, a lot of this is just like, let's automate some stuff kind of crazily and like see what happens, and then go back and fix it. And if it's all non-destructive, you can go back and fix it all you want. Once you print it down into an audio file, that's, you know, that can be a hard thing to learn, when to print down to an audio file. Well, I guess in this case, you know, if we're working with racks like this that make a lot of crazy sounds, then I think it's, you know, of course, a lot of this is generative, and at some point you do have to kind of mix it down. But when you're playing live, to have this much generative stuff is a lot of fun. It makes the live performances feel a lot more organic. Cool, okay. I think this one, the crackle density, is definitely, sounds like directly tied to the force of the kicks. Let's try to fix that balance. It looks like it's weighted a bit in the right ear. Cool. And I think I like this 112. I want to get rid of so much movement and change there, and let's let these stretches of 112 last a lot longer before you hear the ratchets or whatever, the flams. Very kind of cinematic 70s Suspiria horror soundtrack. This looks like a resonator weirder, so maybe we turn this all off and have a listen. Could it sound a little more tonal? All right, cool. Let's try a little bit of some hi-hat action. Just gonna sort of haphazardly, whoops. Yes, behind the scenes. Let's get rid of some of those windows. I really should clean up a bit, you know, before. All right, how to take a terrible hi-hat loop and make it sound more interesting. That's the focus for the moment right now. The old tremolo trick, one of the oldest in the book. And let's thrash on some EQ. And make a phaser sound, your own custom phaser. If you just take this shape here, the bandpass, and you can automate the frequency, and then you could do all 8 of these just kind of going on their own. So you could have a pretty nutty phasery kind of sound that way. So let's try to do some of that. I'm just going to stretch these out a little bit. I don't want the LFO to be too long. All right, that's one. Let's do this one. It's kind of a bit of setup, a bit of legwork, a little bit of a rabbit hole in a way. This one I'm just gonna kind of thrash around. Knob thrashing, it's definitely one of my biggest hobbies. All right, cool. Looks like that did absolutely nothing. Awesome. Well, I see this here, so I'm not really sure why that didn't record, but I'm sure there's a good reason. Something I'm missing today feels like a bit of a janky, wonky day for my brain, so yes, be prepared for more ridiculous things happening. All right, let's try and record that. Looks like that one went through. Not sure why the other one didn't. Maybe a subtle bug. We have found plenty of those. But then we're also, pushing Ableton to some kind of limit. So I feel like we're taking a hi-hat and sort of turning it into a texture at this point. Better or for worse. And I'm thinking maybe some of the new Redux. This jitter kind of has a nice, it's a little cardboardy, but still a nice texture. This has enough of a tom roll difference versus just this basic hi-hat kind of timbre, which we could certainly adjust by automating all of these. And we should. Cool. So I feel like this at least is this layer is adding a nice bit of high-end activity versus before we added it was mainly just kind of lows here and then the sort of mid-range here. So it's nice to fill out the frequency space. Clean that up and cool. Could try some of this. Really love the sound when you automate the time sliders on the delays in Ableton. Definitely kind of a smooth, nice grain, smooth grains. A lot of plugins, delay plugins I found are either really clicky or they just have that warbly kind of classic analog warble sound, which can be cool sometimes, but also just a little obvious to spot and a little goofy, a little like, so I try to avoid the repitch, but actually repitch does kind of work a lot of times on just high-end type of stuff like this, so let's give it a shot. It's not terrible, honestly, so we could switch between these two every now and then. Kind of almost like it does kind of add a weird, almost like slimy feel, slippery. So now we're getting a lot more mileage tonal wise out of this one track by just, you know, thrashing some automations. And that's always nice. You know, we could certainly stack a million effects, but it's always nice when you can get a lot of different sounds out of just a few effects. And once you really like spend a lot of time with one effect and you try out all the knobs and you just really get a good sense of what does what, you can really start to figure out ways, I think, ways of getting a lot of mileage out of one effect or just a few effects. If I was stranded on a desert island and I had to pick 3 effects, Ableton effects, gosh, that would be a crazy thing to, you know, I just had a microphone and I was like stuck with some, you know, computer that was all just waterlogged and only had 3 effects in Ableton and a microphone, you know, to keep myself sane, which 3 effects would I pick? Well, probably, you know, if it was VSTs, I would just end up going with, you know, the multi-effects, obviously, guitar rig or something like that. Maybe cheating because they have so many effects just built in. I'd probably pick like VCVST rack because there's so much. It's been a lifetime exploring sound designs with just that, and that's even like an old iteration of the code, VCVST. But it is just wild how much you can do with the limited amount of modules that comes with. But back to the point, Ableton, I would definitely have to pick the EQ8 because with this you have gain. You can do, like, you know, with clip automation and modulation, you could do so much shaping with EQ8. I would probably pick, you know, the hybrid reverb. Because, you know, most people would say probably compression and EQ, but if you really don't need compression, if you automate the EQ to do certain things, you have to tame frequencies of certain sections. So let's see then, what other fun effect would I choose? Gosh, gotta have reverb. You know, I think that's just so transporting. It takes your Yeah, that is such a tough question. You know, what would the third effect be? EQ? Because, you know, with a microphone, you can get all the source in the world, and I still think you could make some amazing albums if you just had EQ8. You know, possibly then I would choose, well, let's see, maybe like a delay effect. Because I guess, you know, in that sense, we would still have all the audio tracks. We'd still be able to pitch things up and down, you know, but as far as just these effects go, of course, if I only had like one of these synths to choose from, you know, of course I'd choose Max for Live, you know, but let's see, that's just cheating. Yeah, maybe the other effect would be Max for Live. At which point, okay, it makes the whole thing a moot point. All right, let's start automating some of these. So we've already got that one down. I think I want to just thrash this knob a little bit. I am thinking we do have a decent little texture layer going here. And let's get an EQ on here. I really wish we could just copy this over and have it copy over all of the automations. The only way to achieve that, I've found, is to duplicate this track, and it also has the clip with all the automations. We'll just get rid of all of these. Actually, no, let's keep those and just turn them off for now. And we're gonna route, we'll just call this kick. We'll route kick through this, so it will run through these automations here. Yes. Cool. So let's summon a gate. Pull audio from kick. Let's put that at the front of the chain, obviously. And let's change the routing here to sins only. Yes. Now, we're definitely losing most of our bass, and I think it's this one, which I'll get rid of. Here we go. Now we can listen to what some of these other ones are doing on our kick. And maybe just a little bit of this. And maybe we'll pull this over here and have a listen. I do believe drum bus will come in handy. Yes, you can hear this crazy phasing happening. Now the thing is that if we start these two clips at the exact same time, so if anybody loads this up and just hits play here, now we're going to have the exact same phasing. These automations will run all identically at the same time. So what we can do to fix that, there's a couple ways actually, but I think the easiest way is to only show adjusted envelopes. And just come in here, and on the PC it's hold down Alt to drag off the grid, or we can just turn off our grid and we'll move these endpoints just a little bit arbitrarily forwards and backwards. So go ahead and unlink this. And that way, after a few cycles, these two will be completely out of sync. We could certainly also adjust the waveforms themselves. But this is the quick and dirty way. You can also move the start points. That does help throw things off out of sync a little bit, but if our lengths are exactly the same, then that's not really going to do a whole lot. It's more just like adjusting the phase of the LFO. If you kind of look at these as LFOs, then yeah, the start point is the phase essentially. Okay, I feel like this sketch can use a little bit more tonal activity. And probably needs more volume here and some compression. Let's get the glue compressor going with some sidechain from this kick texture. Yes, Horror Island. That's the new movie coming out this summer. It's gonna take the world by storm. And this is the soundtrack. It's just one long generative 2-hour soundtrack that never ceases. Wouldn't that be amazing? Amazingly bad. All right, so let's pull some sound from our kick texture, and how we see that being activated by this. Do you like the breathing? But we can sort of let up on that a little bit. All right, let's get that hybrid reverb going. Man, only 3 effects on stranded on a desert island with 3 effects. Oof, that is a real tough one. Tough, tough, tough. But it's EQ, hybrid reverb, and I think the delay effect. We get so much mileage out of just those. So with the delay effect and, you know, the innate feedback looping you can do in here with like sends and returns, you get so many cool tones. But geez, yeah, not having a sampler or like say the gate effect here to pull audio from different spots, man, that would be interesting. All right, let's get some. Yeah, it's funny. I'm still not seeing that folder never showed up here. I think that's probably another shortcoming bug of Ableton 11, because if I open it and you see here in the folder, you see there it is. There's that folder, but it's just never somehow got forgotten by the index. Bad robot. Okay, cool. So let's open up and maybe try out one of these multis. And in order to see anything, you have to choose all files, because right now it's filtering. This industrial string sound generator could be fun. And it automatically drops it in an audio track. I wish I could change that. Not that I have anything against audio tracks. I love them. But for all generative, all DSP stuff, MIDI tracks really are superior. Is large and in charge. Cool. And I think I like the sheer raw power coming off of that drone. Let's definitely have some really long sections of each. What are we at? DE2. Okay. I think we need to turn back on show all envelopes. So now when we right click and choose show automation, we get the right one. I always forget and leave that thing off and get confused. Yes, all right, sweet. Let's have a few spikes here. A few NAR drone spikes. Let's move this over here. We can contextually keep these of course we could group these two, and we could just drop the compressor on top of both. I think it's a better sound to have two separate compressors versus a lot of sound running through one compressor. Also do some really weird stuff like pull sound from the kick texture and sidechain from that, but put a delay on it. This is not a really usual type of way to use sidechain. Usually you want the sidechain to kind of occur right when the kick hits. But just for the effect, let's pull from that. Let's go ahead and send this off to sends only, so it doesn't really go through here. And let's add the delay. There we go. So now we're basically delaying the kick sound coming through. Delayed kick, side chain. Yes, I can't spell today. Brain not working. Okay, so we'll pull this from that. So you can hear the kind of the fluxing is going to be pushed off a little bit. We could also automate the time here. That kind of could be fun. Let's have a try on that, and yeah, definitely weird. I like the weird effect going on there, and just for the sake of using something strange, a new idea. Okay, not a new idea, but strange nonetheless. Okay, so let's also delay this one. And again, like we did before, I'm gonna show automation here. I'm gonna adjust this so that we've got different timings between these two. And let's take this one and pull it from delay kick 2. Are you like, okay, so that's kind of itself. It doesn't want to sidechain from itself. And we could, obviously, if we had an effect in here that was grouped, then we could do some crazy, you know, there it shows up now. So pull audio and sidechain from this. Now that would just be too weird. But great way to make feedback loops that way. Okay. Now I'm liking the pressuring, the pumping that's happening. And we could actually do 2 compressors here. One is actually pulling straight from the kick. There's no reason why you can't have 2 separate side chains happening. All right, there we go. So now we've got like a weird fluxing happening here. We can always like pull the threshold up on any of these just so that it's a little less intense. And I do think I want to go ahead and group these. Subgroups within subgroups, and it can get really tricky when you're trying to sort through them all here. Sometimes I have to like name a track, you know, something really insane, like, you know, 100 exclamation points. And then when I'm trying to find it for a side chain, I can, oh, there it is. Pretty obvious, stands out. You know, some projects I'll have hundreds of tracks, and then it's easy to do that. And then once I've selected it and found it, I'll just go back to the original and name it something decent. Delay or side chain 2, yes. So I grouped this because I felt like having a delay after all this pumping is happening, all this egregious side chaining, that a delay could help add a bit of smoothing to that. You never know until you just try out an idea and give it a little bit of time, tweak it around a little bit. So often I find myself just having to hit the delete button. Honestly, best trick ever, the delete button. One of the toughest things to learn, really. How to let go, how to just delete things, how to commit and move on. When to like try to be really non-destructive and when to like just settle on something. Okay, cool. There's so much to know, folks, but yes, hitting the delete button, I think, is one of the best things an artist can learn. All right, let's try some effects on this channel here. Very alien, slurpy. Yeah, let's have it flip down 3 steps just every so often. Really space that one out. So let's choose automation there. I guess one of the reasons why it is almost better sometimes to use automation, especially if you're just going to hang out in the clip view, is because you can actually see with this red dot. I wish there was a blue dot there. I mean, because sometimes the automation just doesn't move for a while, and so you don't know what's actually, from this angle, been automated. Or I'm sorry, modulated. Automation is pretty easy to spot. It's a future video game soundtrack for wandering around in some abandoned space hulk, some giant spaceship that is possessed by aliens, alien demons. Didn't want to automate you. Okay, cool. Time to explore a few audio effects racks. And also hearing a bit of a mid-lift. Nice. Okay, let's add a little bit more room to that. Find the 1 measure long automation clips kind of wear out a little too quickly. Just my opinion, of course. I tend to be very picky on having things not stagnate, which is tough, you know. But it really helps, you know, when you're listening to a song hundreds of times before calling it quits on the song. It really helps if you add a lot of modulation and automation and evolution across the song, just to help, you know, things feel like they're moving along. Helps things not get so boring so quick. This is the Signature Series EQ thrashing trick. Doesn't always work, but I really love to do it because it can add a lot of fluxing and a lot of uncertainty and change and interest in especially if you've got different loop lengths for the automations of the frequency versus the gain. We could get a couple going here. Oops, didn't want to automate the on-off of that. So I really feel like this kick is very muffledy, and it's a lot of it's probably to do with this, but if we just sort of force up the high ends, we can really reveal a lot of interesting, weird stuff, potentially. This doesn't always work. Sometimes really pushing the high ends up, you can get occasional pops and crackles. The filtering, it's kind of like a very bizarre filter we have happening here. Essentially, the EQ is a filter. This idea of being stuck on a desert island with nothing but a microphone and 3 effects: hybrid reverb, EQ8, and the delay. That really makes me start to think about what if we just do a sketch with just those and nothing but those, and just like use one sound, you know, and that sounds like a horror in and of itself. Should have prepared a lot of these. Wish there was a setting in Ableton that when you start dragging automation, you could make the lengths as long as you are holding down the mouse button, instead of having to set the lengths sort of manually each and every time. But that's okay. Can't have everything. Now we have kind of like a monolithic, apocalyptic planet folding in on itself, kind of crumbling, pretty noisy sound coming from this kick now with the this abused EQ that we've employed. Abuse doesn't always have to be a bad thing. This is definitely a case for that. Let's see, I think was it 6? Okay, 6, 5, 3. Alright, I think we're good. Let's just leave it at that. Now this is just crazy business right here. We could just let the drum bus kind of have some of that grit and distortion on some of these crazy EQings. Liking sort of the slurpiness, the almost organic, pseudo-organic sort of sound. We are really pushing these CPUs here, so hopefully the video is holding up. I'm not going to stop the check. Make a little drone tone work. Honestly, if I was on the desert island and I had operator as well as those 3 effects, I think that would be an endless supply of weird sounds. let's pull the second, let's see, the second one that's actually pushed by the kick channel itself, and push a little bit. We are getting very close to, I think, calling it on this one. I did want to try some weird effects over here, just for the hell of it. Every now and then, let's just have that thing jet fly by. We need our longer loop. I really wish it would just record for as long as I am clicking and dragging and moving that thing. That's okay. Can't have everything. Alright, that's too much of that effect, honestly, so let's just only have that crap happen maybe every now and then. Sort of way down the line. There we go. Make sure we're all set. We got a nice loop going. Okay, cool. What other effect? Filter jammer. I should save before starting. I'm starting to really learn to just hit save before dragging any, especially with Max for Live. But anything that has VST stuff in it. I think we did get a crash one time on this. One of the things that really helps is to, when you're making dummy clips here, just to go ahead and like set their lengths a bit long and arbitrary. So that way when you record, even if you don't go in and readjust, you know, the unlink these, they at least still, this clip, you know, will run offset from all these other clips just because we've given it this weird length here. I'm done automating this one, I want to move it before the grain delay, just to kind of let some of the sound of it be processed through the reverb. It helps smooth things out a little bit, having a reverb closer to the end of the chain. It's not always ideal, but yeah, look at just some crazy spikes going there. Can bring out some grit, some real nice tonal, interesting tonal stuff. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that phasery thing happening with that lo-fi cheapo. Oftentimes when I do some automation, you know, and it doesn't sound 100% right to me, I always try to remember, okay, what spot is this? You know, so that I can go back later and remember exactly where to go to pinpoint down the problem. So like maybe if we move it here before the hybrid reverb, it won't sound so in your face. And I think this sounds better just sort of shoved on and off. Nothing happening there, and let's go ahead and unlink this one while we're in here. Move it up. Oh, I think I hit the wrong key. Well, that was kind of nice to have that break there. And now that I heard that, it makes you want to program in a break like that. So we can just do that easily by having a really long length here. And just like right at the end, we'll just have it cut out for like, I don't know how long is that? Almost, I'll measure. Cool. Let's also, yeah, let's get our warbly tempo thing in there that we were using on the last. Yep, there we go. Maybe just a little bit more fade in on that. Alright, tempo vacillator. Yep, I've been loving this thing. It's so simple. Maybe a bit too fast for my taste, so I think we need to pull down depth. Not on this one. This is our. This one's attached to the click to change, but I think this depth here, you can see it already kind of very subtle at this point. Let's sit with that and just feel it out. Okay, cool. Yep, I think I'm good with this one. You know, not the best sketch that we've done, honestly. Not the worst, I suppose, but, you know, it's not up there. That's just how it goes. Some days when you sketch, you're going to be like, you know, maybe you didn't sleep amazingly well the night before. Maybe there's just like a lot of crap happening at your day job, and you just don't have the full energy. But hey, you still at least put in some time. You still, you know, gave some energy and effort. And, hey, at least with this one, I learned, you know, a little bit. I had the idea to add the delay on the side chain. So that's an interesting concept. You know, we can maybe get more mileage out of that idea down the road. I don't think that this is the best demonstration of it. I think if we had a lot more beats and we were doing the delay on the side chain forward a beat or two, I think it would be a pretty interesting, potentially interesting result. So we'll have to keep that idea, having several delays side chained. Yeah, keep that idea for down the road. Also getting to exercise some of this crazy EQ business here is always a good time, and I always love practice on that. So really, you know, even if your sketch doesn't turn out sounding like as amazing as you wanted to, hey, you still got some practice in, and, you know, eventually it gets to the point where you can sit down and make something interesting most of the time. I'd say in the beginning when I first started working on sketches and music stuff in DAWs, I mean, once I got over the like learning curves of the actual DAW and learned all the ins and outs so that I kind of could manipulate and get the ideas going that way, you know, maybe 20% of the time a sketch would actually be able to turn into something interesting. And then, you know, as time went on, those sketches had started to become more like 30% were actually good, and then 40%, you know, and now it's to the point where like, and of course, knowing the DAW in and out now, I think, yeah, I'd say like after years and years, 90% to 100%, I can turn a sketch into something. Wow. That is intense. Serious Nosferatu organs. And I think that is just using the resonator effect. That crappy built-in resonator. Yeah, these guys right here. It's crazy how you can get some kind of organ sound coming out of that thing. So anyway, yeah, practice makes perfect, as they say. So just, yeah, try to figure out how to make it fun, that whole practice thing. You know, for me, it's a lot of exploring effects, pushing the limits via automating everything, modulating everything, just trying that out. Max for Live is huge, really helps for the exploration. So anyway, nice little pause there. It's like when you're at the beach and all the waves just pull out at the same time and the sound goes, everything goes silent for a few seconds on the beach. It's just such a vacuum, you know, after hours of listening to waves rolling in. Kind of like that effect. All right, cool. Enough blathering on. It's been fun, and until next time, keep it